Welcome back to the Microgrid Minute. Everybody's talking about microgrids these days, but we're going to try to get past the buzzwords and, really try to understand what's going on. So whether you're a business owner or maybe you're, leading a city or even a whole municipality.
Yeah.
That reliable energy
Absolutely.
is like...
It's non-negotiable these days.
Yeah.
Especially when we're thinking about, ways to support sustainability and also...
Right, and be resilient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need energy resilience these days. And, it's interesting. We're not just talking about, backup power.
Right.
Like AJ Perkins, the microgrid mentor, puts it, microgrids are more than backup power. They're a way for communities to gain energy independence and resilience.
Okay, so we're talking about energy independence, resilience.
Yeah.
Sounds like a big deal, but let's break it down. What is a microgrid?
So in the simplest terms, you can think of a microgrid as like a mini power grid.
Okay.
It's a self-contained system that can power a specific area like a business campus or a hospital or even a neighborhood. And the key here is its ability to operate independently from the main power grid.
Okay.
What we call island mode.
Oh, so it's like a little power station.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are the pieces of this power station?
So there are three main components.
Okay.
You start with generation, so that's where you're actually creating the power.
Okay.
And you have a variety of sources. You could use solar panels, wind turbines, you could have natural gas generators, even things like hydrogen fuel cells.
Wow.
And the great thing about microgrids is you can mix and match these to fit your particular needs.
So it's very customizable.
Very customizable, exactly.
Great. What about the second piece?
So the second piece is storage. And typically this is going to be batteries, which smooth out the energy supply coming from, sources that might not be constant.
Right, like solar and wind.
Especially those renewable sources, yeah. So think of it like a savings account for energy.
Okay, so you're saving energy when the sun's shining or the wind's blowing, and then using it later when it's not.
That's exactly right.
Okay, I got it. What about the third piece?
The third piece is the control system.
Okay.
And this is like the brains of the whole operation. It's sophisticated software that manages the entire microgrid system and makes real-time decisions about when to use grid power, when to use stored power, and even when to sell excess energy back to the grid.
So like a financial advisor?
Kind of like a financial advisor for energy, yeah.
But what are the benefits?
So I think the number one benefit that people think about is resilience.
Okay.
So if the main grid goes down, your microgrid keeps the lights on B, businesses can avoid costly downtime.
Right.
And communities can keep critical services running.
Yeah, we've all been there with those, power outages.
Power outages, yeah. They always seem to happen at the worst time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's not just about surviving outages, it's about thriving.
Okay.
Microgrids provide reliable, high-quality power, and they can even help stabilize the larger grid.
Okay, so more reliability, but is this going to break the bank?
Well, AJ Perkins says integrating renewables into microgrids isn't just sustainable. It's a smart investment that reduces costs over time.
Okay.
So generating your own power can shield you from, those rising energy costs.
Yeah.
And if you have excess energy, you can sell it back to the grid.
Oh, so you can make money.
You can turn a cost into a revenue stream.
Yeah. So we've got resilience, we've got reliability, we've got cost savings, anything else?
Well, we can't overlook sustainability.
Right.
Microgrids can significantly reduce your carbon footprint.
Okay.
Which is something that customers, investors, regulators, everybody's looking at these days.
So it's not just good for the planet, it's good for business.
Absolutely.
Now, are all microgrids created equal?
That's a great question, and the answer is no. There are different types of microgrids.
Okay.
We have level 1 microgrids, which are the simplest. These are typically for a single building. Like you might have solar panels on the roof of your business. That's considered a level 1 microgrid. Then we have level 2 microgrids, which cover multiple buildings.
Like a campus or, part of the utilities network. And these can use multiple energy sources.
Got it.
So they offer a bit more flexibility. And then the most complex type is a level 3 microgrid. Which can encompass an entire community.
Wow.
So this is a more sophisticated system with diverse energy sources and might even integrate smaller microgrids.
So let's say I'm sold, I want a microgrid. Where do I even begin?
Well, the first step is to really understand your energy needs.
Okay.
What are your current energy costs, your usage patterns, and what are your sustainability goals? And that's where working with experts comes in.
So don't try to DIY this.
Yeah, I mean, you could try.
Okay.
But you really need expert guidance from engineers, contractors, consultants who specialize in microgrids. They can assess your needs, they can design a solution that works for you, and they can navigate all the complexities of the project.
So get help.
Get help. That's the message.
Exactly. I'm hearing you. And that brings us to, choosing the right integrator for your project.
But before we dive into that, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment to talk about how to find the right partner to make your microgrid vision a reality.
Sounds good.
So we were talking about those integrators.
Right, yeah. The experts.
The experts. So what does a microgrid integrator actually do?
They are like the architects and the construction managers of your microgrid project.
Okay.
They bring everything together.
Okay.
From designing the system and selecting the technologies to overseeing the installation and even handling the ongoing maintenance.
So they make sure all the pieces fit together.
So they handle the technical details, the regulations, all the permitting, the financing, everything.
So how do I find a good one? How do I know who to trust?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of companies out there these days that are saying they're microgrid experts.
Right.
But I think the most important thing is experience.
Okay.
How many microgrid projects have they completed? What's their track record?
So don't go with a newbie.
I mean, if you want to be, a guinea pig,
right,
you can, but
maybe not.
Yeah. I would stick with somebody who's got a lot of experience.
Okay. What else should we look for?
Their technology partnerships.
Okay.
Are they working with reputable manufacturers and suppliers? Are they on the cutting edge of microgrid technology?
Okay.
Embracing things like artificial intelligence and advanced control systems? Because this field is constantly evolving.
Right. So you need somebody who's up on all the latest and greatest?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And of course, regulatory knowledge is crucial.
Right.
Make sure the integrator understands the rules and the permitting processes specific to your area.
So you need someone who knows the lay of the land.
Absolutely.
And understands all the rules and regs.
Yes.
What about the human element?
Oh, that's really important too.
Okay.
You're going to be working very closely with these people.
Right.
So you need a good fit in terms of communication style. Their overall approach.
Yeah, you need to get along with these folks.
You need to have a good relationship with them.
Right.
So take your time, do your research, talk to multiple integrators before you make a decision.
So don't just jump in.
No, you want to really vet these companies.
Okay.
Choose a partner that you trust and you feel comfortable collaborating with.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Now, I think everybody listening would love to hear some stories about microgrids in action.
Sure.
What are some real world examples of how this stuff is working?
Yeah. So there's this really cool example of a rural community in a mountainous region.
Okay.
And they were really struggling with frequent power outages. And they decided to implement a microgrid that combines solar and wind power with battery storage.
Okay.
And the result was they increased their resilience, they lowered their energy costs, and they gained a newfound sense of energy independence.
Wow. So they're really taking control of their energy future.
Exactly. And it shows you how microgrids can really empower communities, even in, remote locations.
That's awesome. Do you have any other examples?
Yeah. I mean, there's a hospital complex in a hurricane-prone area that was really concerned about power outages disrupting critical care.
Right.
So they installed a microgrid.
Okay.
With a combination of natural gas generators and battery storage.
Okay.
And now they can weather even the most severe storms.
Okay.
And they can ensure continuous power for life-saving medical equipment and patient care.
So it really is, a life or death situation.
Absolutely.
In some cases.
Yeah.
Where these microgrids can really be a game changer.
Yeah, and we're seeing them implemented everywhere.
Really?
From military bases and university campuses to, manufacturing facilities and entire city districts.
Wow.
It's amazing the diverse applications for this technology.
It sounds like we're really just at the beginning of like a microgrid revolution.
I think so.
What do you think the future holds?
Well, that's a great question, and one that we'll explore in more detail after a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to discuss, the exciting innovations that are shaping the future of microgrids.
Okay.
And what they mean for businesses and communities like yours.
Welcome back to the Microgrid Minute. So before the break, we were talking about the future of microgrids.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon? What are some of those exciting innovations?
Well, one trend that I think is really fascinating is the rise of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And machine learning.
AI.
Yeah, AI in microgrid control systems.
So microgrids that think for themselves.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Imagine a system that can predict energy demand.
Okay.
optimize energy use, and even diagnose potential problems before they occur.
So it's like preventative maintenance.
Yeah, it takes efficiency and reliability to a whole new level.
So that's pretty sci-fi.
It is, but it's becoming a reality.
That's awesome. What else can these AI-powered microgrids do?
Well, they can actually participate in energy markets.
Really?
So they can sell energy back to the grid when it's most valuable.
Wow.
And they can provide grid services like voltage support and frequency regulation.
So they can actually make the grid more stable.
Exactly.
For everybody.
Yeah, they can be a real asset for utilities.
Okay.
Especially as we move toward a more decentralized energy system.
Right. And you mentioned something earlier called virtual power plants.
Yes.
What are those?
So a virtual power plant, or a VPP, is basically a network of distributed energy resources.
Okay.
So things like solar panels, wind turbines, battery storage systems, all working together like a coordinated team.
So it's like a really big microgrid?
You could think of it that way.
Yeah.
And microgrids can actually be building blocks of VPPs.
Okay.
So they can aggregate and coordinate these distributed resources.
Got it.
To provide those grid services and participate in those energy markets.
That's pretty cool. And how do electric vehicles fit into all of this?
That's a great question, because as we see more and more electric vehicles on the road, VPPs with integrated microgrids are going to be crucial for managing that increased demand on the grid.
So it sounds like microgrids are going to play a really important role
Absolutely.
in the future of energy.
They're not just about, going off the grid. They're about creating a smarter, more sustainable, and more resilient energy ecosystem. And I think A.J. Perkins really sums it up well when he says, the real strength of a microgrid lies in its flexibility to adapt to local energy needs while supporting the larger grid.
That's a great quote. So for our listeners who are excited about microgrids, what should they do next?
I would say reach out to those experienced microgrid integrators we talked about.
Yeah, get help.
Get help. They can guide you through the process from assessing your needs to designing and implementing a solution that's right for your business or your community.
That's great advice. So it sounds like microgrids are more than just a buzzword.
Yeah.
They're a real solution.
A real solution.
For a more resilient, sustainable, and affordable energy future.
I think so.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into microgrids.
It's been a pleasure.
And we hope you'll join us next time for another episode of the Microgrid Minute.
See you then.